Teamster Power 767 Reality Check with Jeff Schenfeld and Garfield Hooper. Good morning, Garfield. How's everything going this Labor Day weekend?
Pretty good. It's a rainy weekend, but I'm making the best of it.
Yeah. No, I know it's definitely rainy, but I just want to mention one thing. Because of this long holiday weekend has been brought to you by blood, sweat, and
Yep.
tears of the labor movement. That's it.
Yes.
Just wanted to say that because that's just one of the, just one of the things we got because of, people before us.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
So,
always
but
we should always be striving to want better for the people that comes after us. Those people gave us
absolutely.
Labor Day and some of the rights that we have today, some of the rights that we take for granted today.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yep.
we
Absolutely.
should really keep that in
Absolutely.
mind for the generations that come after us.
Yes. Let's prepare the next generation always. That's why we're, one of the reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah.
But, today, we're getting right into it. As always, today we are talking about Article 4, Stewards,
And
okay, which is also Article 47.
yes.
So,
But
but,
in the National Master, this covers the
yep,
stewards, and
yep,
this might be one of the most important articles in the National Master.
absolutely.
It gives you your right.
Absolutely.
You have your right to representation. You know, it gives stewards their rights to do investigations
Hmm.
and conduct hearings and stuff on grievances. We're gonna go through it and piecemeal it a little bit here and kind of talk about some of the rights the stewards have and some of the rights that you should be looking for your stewards to be exercising on your behalf. So,
Absolutely. A steward is an authorized agent of the local,
hmm,
okay? You're here for the members, but you also, as an authorized agent, you're a reflection on the local.
yes,
Okay. So like anything else, you got to go about your business the right way, know the contract, and if you have any questions before you do something, speak to your BA.
yes,
If you're not sure, because that could be a problem.
and,
And remember, it's you are working for the members. You're not doing any locals bidding or any personal anything like that. You work for the members. Okay, that's important. Very important.
And I think it's also important to realize that, as a steward, you should be setting an example.
Always.
I can't. There are things, of course, we've talked about on here about things that we disagree with, like maybe the company going after people for not wearing socks and things like that. It's like we wish that kind of
No.
stuff there. But as a steward, you constantly have a target on your back. There's nothing the
Mm-hmm.
company would like better than to get rid of a steward, especially a good one. So the stewards have to do things right. You have to be in uniform. You have to be on time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be the person in the office getting written up for stupid little mistakes every other
No.
day. Um,
Yeah. Keep your
and
backyard clean.
yeah, yeah, you have to be the person that other people look to be like, hey, not only do I need this person for support and for
No.
representation, but this is also the person that we should be acting like. This is the person that we should be mimicking in our job because the stewards should be setting an example for the work group as a whole.
They're the leaders on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. And you have to conduct yourself at all times, in the best way, that reflects, what a steward is, what a teamster is, and that's always important. You can never forget that, ever, ever. So you always got to remember where you came from, and you know, you may want to be a certain way, and if you've been doing it for a long time, you may just get, a little lax on it. No, you can't get lax. Okay, you have to be, you have to keep adapting because the company keeps adapting, right? You can't just, like when a member needs you in the office, you can't just be in there to sign it. I mean, you can't just be that. You got to ask questions. You got to go through the whole process. Don't ever get lazy, okay? Because the members will suffer.
And that's also not to say that you should just be sitting back and doing whatever management says. Like you have the right
Never.
to restart to stand up for yourself. And if management feels like they can speak or talk or yell or scream or cuss at members or you can't be afraid of jumping right back at them the same way. Like
Ever.
you have to
Don't ever be afraid.
react to them and do stuff like that. But being a steward, like you need to be the person. You need to be setting an example, but you also need to be the person that everybody looks to and says, "Hey, if he's not afraid of management, I shouldn't be afraid of management."
Yep. Yep. They're like the protectors, right? I
Yes.
mean, that's what you are. That's what you're supposed to be. And you gotta, every steward should take that seriously.
Yep.
And, management's gonna get loud. Again, they can, they're getting loud, you stop them there. But you always like when you're in a hearing, if it's, they're the moving party with discipline, let them talk until they're done and you go back and say what you have to say. Don't give them an excuse to do anything, but you always stay firm.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Don't give them an inch.
Yeah.
Not even an inch.
But let's get to some of the language specifically.
No. Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and read the first part of this, just kind of an introductory to Article 4. It's on page 12 of the National Master.
Mm-hmm.
The employer recognizes the right of local union to designate job stewards and alternates from the employer's seniority list. The authority of job stewards and alternates so designated by the local union shall be limited to and shall not exceed the following duties and activities: the investigation and presentation of grievances with the employer or the designated company represented in accordance with the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement, a collection of dues when authorized by appropriate local action, and C is the transmission of such messages, informations which shall originate with and are authorized by the local union and its its officers, provided such messages and information. One, have been reduced to writing, or two, if not reduced to writing, are of routine nature and do not involve work stoppages, slowdown, refusal to handle goods, and any other interference with the employer's business. So
Yeah.
you have the right to present grievances. This is an important thing too. Like the company, just like we don't have the right to refuse to sign a discipline, the company doesn't have the right to refuse to sign a grievance. So, and this is specifically with UPS, and I've had to do this a few times with especially younger supervisors that don't know better. Is I'll hand them they'll be the only one available. I try not to blindside a supervisor that's new, that doesn't know any better or whatever, but I'll take it to whoever I can, given the situation, and ask them to sign their side. And if they refuse to sign it, I'm going to be like, look, if you refuse to sign this, I'm going to get a witness that you refuse to sign it. I'm going to put RTS, your name and date, and my witness on here. And when I fax this in, you're going to get a phone call from the labor manager asking you what the fuck you're doing not signing grievances.
And they will. The labor manager will have a problem with
Yeah.
that member of management for not signing it.
Yeah. So,
So,
like,
you know,
at the same time, you get weak, and I've had this happen before. Some supervisors that know better that just get pissy about the grievance I'm filing, or somebody else is filing and will refuse to sign it. I'm like, look, nobody else has to get in trouble here, but this is exactly what's going to happen. I'm telling you word for word what is going to happen, and like the next day or two, if I have to RTS this and send this in. So, like, you need to,
it's simple.
you need to like calm down and realize that this is part of your job. Just like I don't agree with any of the discipline you give, but I still sign it.
Yep. Yep. Just as a witness being there. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not agreeing to anything, but they want you to oh, I can't sign it. Well, someone's over here on the other side of the building. The hell I'm going to the other side of the building. You're authorized to do it. You don't want to.
Yes.
That's it. I'm not running around. And you initially refuse to sign date, time, area, everything. And then when the labor manager sees that, they'll be like, oh God,
Yeah.
So I mean, they better be. They're gonna start running around. You're gonna run us in circles. That's not the way this works
No.
at all. So
Um,
You know,
Collection of dues, like we don't do that. I don't know if any of
no,
UPS locals authorize people to collect dues. I think that's all done. There may be other. There's obviously probably other Teamsters organizations that have their stewards collect dues, but we're not one of them here at UPS.
yeah,
And then, of course, messages, things like events that are happening within the union,
hmm,
or information about contract negotiations or things like that are probably coming from your local. So, they want you to be able to give that information to as many people as possible. I encourage a lot of stewards, if you don't already have this, to have like a group text message with your some of your members, or if not all of your members. I know it's hard to get some people involved in that sort of thing. Like, we have a big WhatsApp group with I think we have about 75 people in it out of
yeah,
130ish drivers.
yeah,
And we send a lot of information that way. If something comes up, if I get something from the BA or the president or whatever, we'll send it out, let everybody know. Maybe let somebody know that there's going to be a parking lot meeting on a certain day. That's kind of stuff what that
yep,
is. But obviously, especially if you're going to be in a position of putting things in a text message that feasibly, heaven forbid, somebody screenshot it or something and show it to a member of management. Just be careful what you put on there. Obviously, we don't want anything with the kind of slowdowns or refusals or stoppages or something like that, unless it's being authorized by the union. In case we're not crossing picket lines or something like that from another company.
yeah,
But
yeah,
just
yeah.
as a steward, just like you have to be careful what you tell somebody in person. Be careful what you put in writing that somebody can then screenshot or something and show proof of. But
Yeah, it's wait, just one other thing also, especially, I mean, it's for, I know it's harder for feeders to do this, but like, for package and part-timers and combos, sort of before the regular PCM, maybe once or twice a week, have your own union PCM for maybe 5 minutes.
yeah,
Just discuss things that are going on.
well,
It works. It keeps people involved. If there's issues between members, we can clear that up,
yeah.
you
And
know.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to be the cooler heads
Yes.
amongst the members.
Yep.
Because when you work in a building with 50, 60, 100 other people, chances are somebody's going to have a problem with somebody else.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
avoid management getting involved. We've had people call ethics on other drivers and things before, and like, I don't want it to go that far. If you have a problem with another driver and you have a
Yeah.
steward that some stewards don't want to get involved in this. They don't want to get involved in the drama. Like, I want to keep my work group as put together as possible. So if somebody has a problem with another driver, most people will feel comfortable coming to me, and I'll approach the other driver, kind of get both sides of the story and everything, and try to let cooler heads prevail and talk everybody down if there's something going on there. But it's kind of an extra layer of job that you have to do as a steward sometimes, especially in larger buildings.
Mediation between members.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So it's and listen, it's we say we keep it between the union. If it's about someone's safety, someone's threatening you, that's different. That's different.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is you do what you have to
You
do.
do what you
But
have to do. Yeah. If you feel like you're in
yeah,
danger or something like that, obviously do
absolutely.
whatever you feel is necessary.
But you shouldn't, tell another, especially as a steward, shouldn't tell another member to call the 1-800 number, the
Yeah.
ethics hotline. I mean, come on, I mean, I don't even know why that would even happen. Yeah, well, and it's important to know that, again, under no circumstances do you have a right to call any strike action,
No.
and that's ever, ever.
Yeah.
And I think pretty much everyone knows that, they're going to know that. But again, and you got to be careful of, if you're able to investigate a grievance and the supervisor, you ask management, hey, I need to investigate this, do that. You can interfere with the operations. How many times over the years, like management will, we're not in anyone's way, but hey, look, you're interfering. No, we're not interfering with anything. You stand up. No, we're not. And they'll say you are, but no, you're not. And you really shouldn't be. So don't. But you're allowed to do certain things to investigate and just be mindful of the operations and stuff like that. You have to be, because you don't want them coming at you. Hey, look, the steward was close to a work stoppage because he was doing this. You don't even want that. So always
Well,
be
I
aware.
also encourage a lot of people. Like I will encourage other drivers because you have some drivers that are louder than others, and especially when it's around contract negotiation time, somebody will mention strikes and stuff like that, and I try to be like, look, we're not going to talk about it. If it happens, it happens. If it happens, it's going to be a decision made way above our heads.
Yep.
So, like, let's not let that stuff get in the way of our daily day because we still have a job to do every day. As stewards, especially, we don't have the authority to do that. But at the same time, if something like that were to happen, if because like I believe that everybody that was around for the last I guess, quote unquote, strike preparation we did last time. Stewards were heavily involved in that. I would, you gotta, your stewards will be the ones that are out there getting times. The times people are going to be at the gates. They're going to be coordinating and things like that because there's not going to be enough BAs to go to every building, but you're going to have 2 or 3 stewards, hopefully active stewards in every building, that'll be able to help coordinate that stuff. But we
Yep.
don't, especially at UPS. I believe there are some locals that have strike stuff that they can do beyond the contracts, but in the
Their
southern
own supplement.
but in the
Yep.
southern region
Yep.
we don't have that stuff. So unfortunately,
No.
we don't get to play with that in the
No.
southern region.
No.
I wanted to read this part as well about your rights as a steward to conduct investigations. The job steward or designated alternate shall be permitted reasonable time to investigate, present, and process grievances on the company's property without interruption of the employer's operation. Upon notification to their supervisor, a steward shall be afforded the right to leave their work area for a reasonable period of time to investigate, present, and process grievances, and to represent a fellow employee concerning grievances or discipline so long as such activity does not interrupt the employer's operation. This shall include the steward's right to represent an employee in connection to any grievance concerning safety issues. The employer will make a reasonable effort to ensure that its operations are not interrupted by the stewards engaging such activity. The employer shall not use interruption of its operation as a subterfuge for denying such right to a steward. Here's the thing, and we run into this a lot on our preloads and stuff. At least I've noticed it in ours. Is our for whatever reason, I'm not going to make any speculation here. We have a certain steward that is always available to do disciplines in our preload. And when anybody else tries to use another steward, the company likes to take the stance that, oh, well, you have a steward here. But you have the right to choose the steward so long as they're available. And
Yep.
if that steward is there and is available, and your other steward is out doing their job, and you don't feel comfortable for the steward that's in there, then that
Yep.
steward can go get the other steward and do their job until
Yep.
till the steward that you want that's requested is there to represent you and finish representing you. So if
You
the
need to know
employee
that.
tries to say that it's
Interfering with the
yeah, that
operations,
it's
or
interfering with the operation, that's bullshit.
Yep.
You have the right. They obviously have an extra person that's not doing anything at that moment, that other
Yeah.
steward's job, while the steward that you request comes and represents you the way
Well,
you feel would be the best.
Well, and it's important because the company, and I've said this plenty of times before, they like to do drive-through hearings, right?
Yes.
Let's discipline, move on. No, that's not the way it's going to work. That's not the way it works. And I've seen stewards, like fall into the trap of, you know, doing what the company says. Let's get this done quick. No, there are questions we have. They can't
Yes.
just say, "Oh, I got 10 more to give." Okay, so maybe we'll get to them by next week then. I mean,
And
baloney.
and here's the thing too, and this is what I'd like to
Yeah.
see too happen, especially in a situation like what I'm talking about, where they'll do this in the middle of the store and use one specific steward that they know is going to do exactly what they want them to do.
Yep. Yep.
If you're the steward that gets pulled in there that somebody wants to be represented and the company refuses to answer your questions, you're not. This is what they've been told. You're here to sign this piece of paper. That's the only reason you're here. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. Okay. Call a caucus. Don't sign anything. Leave that piece of paper sitting on that desk. Call a caucus. Go outside, sit, talk, have a conversation, talk about what they're writing you up about. Have the member go through the whole thing, detail it, minute by minute, second by second, if they have to.
Mm-hmm.
Few minutes will go by. That supervisor or whoever will come out irate, wanting you to get back in that office and be like, "I'm getting you won't give me any details, so I'm getting all the details from my member.
Absolutely.
If you
Yep.
don't want to answer my questions, this is the only way I have to get details. So I'm
Yep.
going to get details. I'm going to take my notes. If you don't want to say your piece, if you don't want to have if you don't want to give me your side of the story, then I'll get all of it from them. But I'm going to make sure it's detailed so that we can fight this discipline." And
Absolutely.
if they want to stand out there, because I've had supervisors do this before too, and management stand out there and be like,
Oh
no,
no.
no, no, I mean, I'm not
Just
signing. I'm not signing that piece of paper until my caucus is over with, and my
Yep.
caucus is not going to continue while you're standing here. So
Never.
we're all
Ever.
we're all getting paid by the minute, so you can
Yep.
make your decision.
Yeah, but they'll try to bully newer stewards, right?
Yeah.
And this is why everyone needs to know that you have to stand your ground. You don't have to yell, scream, be tough. It's not about that. Know your rights as a steward.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way they're going to tell you how many caucuses you can take. Not going to tell you how long each caucus is going to take. And they're certainly not going to stand out there and listen. I'll just keep quiet. Just stand there. Okay. When you leave, then we'll start talking again. Because until then, sorry,
Yeah.
that's a no-go.
And
So
and this is important too. Like in my place as well as like where okay, we'll go to the next paragraph here. Were mutually agreed to by the local union and employer, stewards may investigate off the property or other than during their regular schedule without loss of time or pay. Stewards will be paid for the time spent in meetings under this article, which occur during the steward's regular working hours. Stewards shall also be paid for time spent in meetings which occur outside their working hours or on days off by mutual consent. Such time spent during the job stewards or designated alternates' regular working hours shall be considered working hours by computing daily and or weekly overtime if the regularly scheduled job of the job steward or the designated alternate. So you get paid for your time as a steward. If you're conducting an
Yep.
investigation, you pay. I settle a lot of grievances in my building. I will come in 30 minutes, an hour before my start time, 1, 2, sometimes 3 times a week to settle grievances, depending on, our grievance load. And,
Yep.
I get paid for that time.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and also, this is also important too, and I've had management try to tell me this too. I'll get a stack of grievances, especially with the summer's been going on. I'd be willing to bet I've filed 300 or 400 grievances in the last 2 months. I'll get a stack of grievances, and I'll need to get them signed. And none of the supervisors are running around like a chicken with their head cut off trying to get this, that, or that. And I can't nail one of them down until after start time. And if I've had management tell me, "Oh, I'm not paying you to get grievances signed." Yes, you are. Yeah, you are. I'm getting these grievances signed. Oh, unless of course you'd like for me to put RTS and this particular management's names on every one of these 30 or 40 grievances I have and send them in. You're not going to get a very good phone call from the labor manager later today.
Yep. I mean, they expect us to be in there to do our job when we're in the office, right? By the contract, well, they're going to follow the contract too. They're not just going to do
Yes.
whatever they want.
You have the
So,
right to spend that time getting, if you've got to be there 10, 15 minutes after start time, getting everything signed and moved on so you can process grievances throughout the day, whether that's sending them
yep,
in through an app or stopping it somewhere on your route and faxing them or whatever. Or even if wait and fax them if none of them are time sensitive and you fax them in the evening or whatnot. You do
yeah,
whatever it is you
yeah,
need to do, but you have the right to get that stuff signed right then and there when you get it so that it can be
yep,
processed in a timely manner. And if that has to be after start time, then that's what it has to be. And a
yeah.
manager or a
It
supervisor
does.
doesn't have the right to tell you you don't have that time as a steward.
No, no. And I just want to say something on the side. And this is how I've been, you know, when I as a steward, it's I always want the members to be part of the process. Okay.
Yeah.
And once we get it signed, I give it back to the member. Now I get it. It's sometimes it's harder for part timers. We'll get that in and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean that there are stewards like in feeders. A lot of the time, they'll give it to one steward, they'll leave it in the locker, and one person they'll send it in. I get that, and no way is wrong, right?
Yeah.
You sending it in or I just me personally. So just so everyone knows, I'm not knocking anyone. I want them to be part of the process, okay, of doing it. Not just, hey, could you do all this for me? And they're not part of the process because if they don't put it in timely, who do they have to blame? Themselves. But if for some reason I do, oh yeah, no, you're the worst in the
Yeah.
world. I hate you, bye. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, but again, that's my thought process, okay? I'm not telling, anyone how to do anything. That's their whatever they decide. So,
Yeah.
but
We
yeah,
generally file enough that it's just
yeah,
easier to send a stack of them in at
absolutely.
one
Like that.
time. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's why I say it's, to each his own. And there's nothing wrong with any way of doing that. So, that's important. So
Um. Okay. I'll go ahead and read this portion as well. And I don't know why anybody would do this, but it's important to note just in case. If an employee does not wish to have a union steward in any meeting where the employee has the right to union representation, which is every meeting, under this article, the employee shall sign a waiver of union representation and a copy of which will be furnished to the union upon request. I've never
you,
had to deal with this. Like, I've never had somebody just outright tell me they don't want my representation or any union representation for that matter. But
no,
I will say this: that if I was gonna if that was gonna happen, I'd be like, then I need the union waiver right now. Like, you have him sign it, I'll have it in my hand, I'll submit it to the union. But like, if he's gonna waive his rights, I want it in his signature right now.
I mean, it's every member's wine garden
Yeah.
rights. So, I mean, don't give up that. Don't give
Now.
up that right. I mean, come on, unless there's a special relationship with management that you have, but that's a problem in itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Um.
it's yeah.
Uh.
You know, yeah.
Go ahead.
Listen, in these, in any hearing, you're as a student, you have a right to ask for the warning letters, suspension letters, discharge letters. They
Yes.
have to provide that.
Yeah.
Everything has to be there. And the thing is, are they always going to do the right thing? No, they're not. They're not. And and here's a simple thing: if your BA asks you to do seniority, or yeah, that's something I think that the BA should stick to because they can certain things and then intent to suspend, like they want to suspend you for 5 days. Well, how do you know you're going to do anything until you have all the discipline to see what it is? You can't do that. If anyone takes, oh, I'll just take, and they go, oh, we'll give 5 days, and you're like, oh, 2 days, and you think you're a champ. No, you're a chump. That's a problem because you don't do anything. I mean, you don't just accept a suspension for something. That's a BA's job, okay?
Yeah.
Because you got to have everything, and it takes a lot. As a BA, when I was a BA, it took a lot of discipline for me to maybe even 1 day suspension. But I know there are BAs that might just give out a 5 day for less, and no, that's baloney.
Yeah.
No. Every step of the way is important. Don't just give that out. Don't do anything. You need to have every piece of information.
And
And that's the BA's job.
and this is also something that I'll tell you too. If you're in a hearing for
Yeah.
an intent to suspend, one of the most important things you can ask is, well, what was the previous warning letter given for? I mean, do we have a copy of that? Can we see it? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
information is on that warning letter?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes, especially with everything going on right now, with them just disciplining people for every little thing when they come out and do observations. I'll be like, well, what was the previous discipline given for? But like, oh, well, we don't know. I was like, well, is there any information on the warning letter? There wasn't. They're all just generic methods violations. And no, and that'll go in my notes for that grievance. If,
Well,
that
yeah.
company did not provide previous warning letter, did not provide any context of what the previous warning letter leading up to this suspension letter was about.
So yeah, so I want to add something to that. I don't know, like years ago they used to put it on there, right?
Yeah.
Then the company tried to find a way around it. So here's what I tell people. On that piece of discipline, you ask them, you say, "Hey, what was this for?" And you write it down and you get a copy of that. Okay? Write it down. Let them tell you. And if they don't want to tell you, what are they hiding?
Yeah.
You see? That's it. Write it down on there. Write notes on there. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
They're giving me this. Oh, I feel like it's unjust or this and that. Put the information right on there.
Yeah.
They can't stop you. No, they can't. So, they'll try to run roughshod, but, you don't allow that ever. Unbelievable.
And then the tiny, just to end this, job stewards or designated alternates shall be allowed to wear identifying steward's badge provided by the union at all times while on the employer's premises. It's part of the uniform. If you want to use it, if you want to wear a steward badge, do I have one around here? I don't think I have one handy. We've got one that looks like a little sheriff's star for our local that I've always really liked. I keep one on my backpack as well. I don't often wear it because too many times I've forgotten to take it off and washed them. But
Did we give those when I was the BA you're building?
yeah, that was yours. That was
Yeah,
you guys that did that.
It goes back a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you're the new sheriff in town here.
But yeah,
But
be encouraged to wear those. I remember when I came back from my steward class years and years ago, I wore it for like the next week or so when I had a supervisor come up to me. He's like, "Hey, yeah, that's out of uniform." I'm like, "No, it's not." Well, you need to take it off. I was like, "Then write me up. Go ahead, write me up. Write me up."
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, there's a couple of things. As a steward, you have to be confident, right? And being confident is knowing the contract too, right? Knowing what you can do, what room you have and whatnot. But the company is going to do the shady stuff. We never do shady stuff. We don't lie. We always tell the truth.
Yep.
But know and speak with confidence because the management will see that. And they'll be like, wait a minute, you know what I'm saying? You just be confident.
Yep.
Don't wishy-washy and like I said, knowing the contract, understanding the contract, it's repetition too of being in the office and doing these things, which is going to help also.
Yeah.
That's always, always, always going to help. And you have to do these things. And that's why we say, being a steward, you got to take it really seriously because a member's job could always be on the line. Even if it's just a warning letter down the road, it could be something else. Right?
And so many times I'll have management look at them and say, "Oh, it's just a warning letter." That's the first step you have to take
Yep.
in order to terminate someone's career. So yeah, it's all the same
Unless
to you.
it's a cardinal offense.
And so, so if it's all the same to you, I'm going to take it seriously, and I think the members should too.
Yeah, they should. And so when we say that you have to, keep your backyard clean, do everything right, like with the safety committees, right? Again, you do safety before or after.
Yep.
You don't do it as your shift. You cannot do that.
No.
And there are stewards that we know of, nameless, we're not going to say, who are doing safety instead of their job. You cannot do that.
No.
And it's it's been brought to the local and the local has done nothing about it. So they're, obviously they're allowing it. And you can't do that. Like, it's okay, I take care of you, you take care of me type of thing. It's a quid pro quo, right? And you have to do right. You cannot do that. I mean, there's a BA right now who used when they were a steward, all they used to do was safety instead of their job. I mean, how bad is that? And that goes back to, you don't do the locals bidding to help them, campaign or anything like that.
Yeah.
You represent the members, okay? And you do it to the best of your ability. And you're not pawns for the local. And that's important for everyone to know. And you could fall into that trap, but know the signs, know what's going on. Do not fall into that trap.
As far as I'm concerned, no one in the union, no one in the local, in your individual local, should consider themselves as working for that local or working for the IBT. They work for the unions. They work for the union members.
Yep. Yep.
We pay their salaries with our dues, and you should be carrying yourself and representing yourself in a way that makes the members feel that they are the most important thing in that local.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't have presidents or BAs that consider themselves as better than or others or whatever. They serve us. Period.
Yep. That's it.
And
That's it.
That's the attitude they should have. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be in those positions. But
know the signs.
Yeah.
Know the signs. Yeah. And that's I know from listening, from seeing a lot of, emails and speaking to people, it's happening across the country. And that's, so we're fighting against our own people when we have the company to fight against. You see, it's counterproductive. So that attitude's got to stop. I mean, it's really got to stop. And I think it's a huge problem going on. One other quick thing, like, if you're a steward and, it's about to be start time, whatever, and someone comes up to you, let's say there's a couple of minutes, hey, could you help me fill out this grievance? No, I got to get to my truck. Now, we know you can't do it after start time. They can't fill out a grievance, but help them. Just help them. Or say, hey, I'll get with you later. Don't just blow them off. Yeah. Every little thing you do could affect them.
Call me when you go to lunch. When you go to lunch, call me. I'll talk you through it. While I'm on the line. I talk, I have a earbud that I keep in my ear, and if somebody calls me throughout the day, I'll talk to them while I'm making deliveries. I'm not management. I can do more than one thing at a time.
Absolutely. A little cheek right in there. But yeah, it's the truth. And yeah, it's about taking it seriously and doing a good job representing the members, and it's just important.
Yeah.
So, this is obviously, the next article we discussed, and it was very important. Like we said, one of the most important ones.
We take it very seriously, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So all right. So everyone have a good rest of your Labor Day weekend. And for myself and Garfield, have a good day.
We all deal with national language, but on this podcast, when it comes to supplemental language, we deal mostly with the southern region. And as always, it's best to get advice from your local stewards or business agents. If you would like to reach out to us with any questions, we have an email address, 767realitycheck@gmail.com. That's 767realitycheck@gmail.com.
And remember, strong people stand up for themselves, but the strongest people stand up for others.